So, last for now, I think it's important for us to not only talk about oppression, genocide, slavery, colonization, but talk about healing. To make those stories as prominent. You know, there's a thing I've seen happen with a lot of white people. We get up in front of audiences, and I call it white porn, where we get up and we start to flog ourselves. If I tell you the history of racism enough times, if I show you how guilty I feel, how ashamed I am, then maybe you will see me as not part of the problem. If I flog myself enough, then maybe you will see me as innocent. No. No. It will never work. Right? But the flogging, let me tell you how much I know about the history of racism, is not helping us. We need to know the story of anti-racism, of the people who've been standing up against it. Because when white people don't know about the history of anti-racism, it's a way for us to get ourselves off the hook. Well, if it didn't happen in the past and it's not happening in the present, then it's probably not going to happen in the future. Right? We cannot give up on our people, and here I'm talking to the white people. We have to know that it is possible to get out of these binds. So, examples of how people are moving forward, and I'll just end with two. One is the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa. South Africa, I had the pleasure, the honor of being there in 1994 when they were finishing the Constitution. How did they do their Constitution? They sent it out in draft form. 9.1 million copies in draft form in 13 different languages. They got feedback, and they did it again. And then they got more feedback. Contrast that to the propertied white men who hold themselves up and didn't get any feedback when they wrote the Constitution in the U.S. Okay, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was the last chapter of the most forward-thinking constitution in the world, a 5-year process headed up by Desmond Tutu, right, that enabled a way for the country to start to come to terms with the history of violence without the escalation of the prison industry. This is a story that we need to be telling to each other and studying, because what will it take for us to have Truth and Reconciliation Commissions in this country? Imagine if we could have them about the genocide and slavery. Imagine how we would be different people. And then the last healing for now is the Way Home Tour that I'm hoping a lot of you already know about. The Way Home Tour is a forgiveness journey that is happening from Washington State to Washington, D.C. that's being sponsored by the White Bison organization. It's going from one boarding school to the next, from Washington State to Washington, D.C. And they're doing two things. The boarding schools, everyone knows, 1869 to the present, hundreds and thousands of children ripped away from their families and told that they could not be Indian, told they could not speak their language, right? The damage done by these boarding schools has been intergenerational trauma, passed from one generation to the next. We know with trauma, the first generation is traumatized, the second generation is numb, the third generation processes, and the fourth generation takes action. This is what we're seeing now. They're going from school to school. They're doing two things. One is they are forgiving the U.S. government. Now we know Australia, New Zealand, and Canada has already formally given an apology to the people. Not that it's enough, but it's a start. The U.S. has not even ever formally apologized for the boarding schools. But the Native people are saying, regardless, we are going to do forgiving, because if we don't forgive, we hold the rage. And the second thing that they're doing is they're asking the forgiveness of the children whose spirits were left at the boarding schools. because they are discovering mass graves at the boarding schools. They are discovering that over 80% of the children were sexually abused. They're discovering dungeons. They're discovering holding tanks, right? This is in our lifetime. So, White Bison Tour is taking many of the concepts from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and from core values in Native cultures and drawing them forward to a model that's coming across the country. We went this weekend to Albuquerque. It's profound, which is the 6th stop. They're moving to Oklahoma this week on this journey. You can see this all online. Just type in Forgiveness Tour, the Way Home Project, White Bison. So we need to be healing ourselves. It's a daily practice. The students can tell when we come in and we are stressed out, when we are distracted, when we are overwhelmed. I have come to believe that taking care of our bodies is as important as taking care of our minds, because our minds live in our bodies. Tenderness. Bell Hooks teaches us that self-love is the key to any liberation struggle. Tenderness. It is in our eyes. It is on the picket line. It is when students stay up late helping each other. It is when people lean forward in their chairs, really listening. It's Obama's kiss when he introduced Sonia Sotomayor this week. It's in Jesse Norman's singing of spirituals. We know when we see tenderness. We know when we feel it. We know we need it. Thank you.